These foundational concepts were revolutionary during the Declaration of Independence, which we just celebrated on July 4th, and remain crucial to our nation's prosperity. Hello, welcome to episode 68 of This Week's Economy. I'm your host, Dr. Vance Ginn, president of Ginn Economic Consulting, contributor at 15 free market think tanks, and former chief economist of the White House's Office of Management and Budget. Today, we celebrate America's unique core principles of federalism, free market capitalism, and individual liberty. These foundational concepts were revolutionary during the Declaration of Independence, which we just celebrated on July 4th, and remain crucial to our nation's prosperity. Let's dive into these principles and how they continue to shape our economy and society. First, federalism. Federalism is the distribution of power between a central government and regional governments. This principle allows for a balance of power, ensuring no single entity holds too much control. It encourages competition and innovation among states, allowing them to tailor policies to their unique needs and populations. Federalism was a radical departure from the centralized power structures prevalent in other countries at the time, and remains a cornerstone of American governments. Free market capitalism. Free market capitalism promotes economic freedom by allowing individuals to make economic decisions voluntarily. This principle is grounded in the belief that individuals, not the government, are the best equipped to allocate resources efficiently and make decisions for themselves. Free market capitalism has driven unprecedented economic growth and improved living standards by encouraging competition, innovation, and entrepreneurship. It was a revolutionary idea that challenged the era's mercantilist and centrally planned economies of the time, and continues to be a key driver of prosperity. Let people prosper, right? Individual liberty. Individual liberty is the cornerstone of American democracy, emphasizing the rights and freedoms of the individual. The Declaration of Independence enshrined the belief that all people are endowed with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and property, also known as the pursuit of happiness. This principle set America apart from other nations where individual rights were often subordinate to the state's or monarchy's will. Today, individual liberty remains a guiding principle, protecting personal freedoms against government overreach. Praise the Lord for that, right? So we have so many things that are going on here, and I really wanted to celebrate America, right? I think we don't do that enough. It takes a lot of heat in a lot of ways, but we should be celebrating, being prideful to be an American. I know I am. I hope you are too. And it's something that I hope we can get out there more. So what I wanted to do today was read a little bit from the National Archives about the Declaration of Independence. Just a short briefing there. I'm going to put this in the show notes page where you can find more, but also going to go ahead and read the Declaration of Independence. And so sit back, relax. Let me read this to you because I think it's important for us to understand it. And maybe one day my kids will listen to this as well and they'll read it or listen to it, me say it. So anyway, without further ado, what the National Archives says about the Declaration of Independence is that the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. It was engrossed on parchment, and on August 2nd, 1776, delegates began signing it. Although the section of the Lee Resolution dealing with independence was not adopted until July 2nd, Congress appointed on June 10th a committee of 5 to draft the Statement of Independence for the colonies. The committee included Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Robert R. Livingston, and Roger Sherman, with the actual writing delegated to the one and only Thomas Jefferson. So here is the Declaration of Independence. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events, it became necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, invents a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be attained. And when so is suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right to representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others subject to us a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and not acknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts and pretended legislation, for courting large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment from any murders for which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it as once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of its protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He has at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst people, and has endeavored to bring us on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguishable destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and our correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consequently. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which it denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought, to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Whew, that's touching. I'm hopeful that you will take pride into this as we celebrate another year of America. And this declaration is so important part of that. So thanks for tuning in to episode 68 of This Week's Economy. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode and all the other episodes. For more insights, visit vanceginn.substack.com and vanceginn.com. Get a paid subscription today so you do not miss more information under the paywall or anything else that's available for this podcast. And until next time, let people prosper.